President Biden promised big things on immigration, inspiring advocates who see immigration as a means to enrich the United States. But the pro-immigrant promises, well, they aren't really being kept. Asylum is becoming an increasingly hot topic as the presidential campaign progresses, and Biden is moving to the right, trying to look tough on immigration. A couple of recent announcements by the Biden administration are cause for concern for those who want the United States to meet its promise of a land of opportunity and refuge for persecuted people all over the globe. Not to mention, comply with its international obligations and its own domestic law. In this video, we're looking at two recent policy changes by the Biden administration that are going to make it harder to get asylum in America. I'm Brian Manning. I used to be an asylum officer with the government, but now, as an asylum lawyer, well, I help immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. Let me know in the comments if you've got an asylum case pending, or maybe you're considering applying. And I'd especially like to hear from you if you've been waiting for an asylum interview with USCIS for multiple years. President Biden promised a more humane and fair immigration system during his campaign. He pledged to undo the harsh policies of the Trump administration and to offer protection to those fleeing persecution. However, many of his policies have fallen short of these promises. One of the most significant disappointments has been the continuation and expansion of Title 42, initially implemented under the Trump administration as a public health measure. Title 42 allows for the rapid expulsion of migrants at the border without the usual asylum processing. Despite criticisms and legal challenges, well, the Biden administration actually continued to use Title 42 to turn away thousands of asylum seekers. This policy has been criticized for denying migrants their right to seek asylum and for subjecting them to dangerous conditions in their home countries. Another policy that has drawn criticism is the reinstatement and modification of the so-called Migrant Protection Protocols, also known as the Remain in Mexico policy. This policy forced asylum seekers to wait in Mexico while their cases are processed in the United States. The Biden administration initially suspended the program, but was compelled to reinstate it due to court orders. And then, instead of ending it, the administration actually expanded the program, requiring asylum seekers to stay in areas often plagued by violence and inadequate living conditions. Additionally, the Biden administration has not fully dismantled other Trump-era restrictions that complicate the asylum process. So for instance, the administration has kept in place stringent criteria for credible fear interviews, the first step in the asylum process for most people who come to the southern border. These criteria make it difficult for many asylum seekers to pass the initial screening, thus preventing them from presenting their full cases in immigration court. Furthermore, the Biden administration has been slow to address the backlog of asylum cases, both in the immigration court system and at the asylum offices. This delay leaves many asylum seekers in a state of limbo, uncertain of their future. And although Biden has promised to hire more immigration judges and streamline these processes, well, any changes that he has put in place have yet to produce really significant results. By the way, if you want to maximize your chances for asylum success, then be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell notification so that you don't miss the insights that I share on this channel. All right, that brings us to two recent announcements that are concerning for immigration advocates. One concerns the application of the so-called asylum bars at the credible fear stage. Now, there are certain things that can make you ineligible for asylum if they apply in your case. And that's why they're called bars to asylum. They bar you from getting asylum. It's mainly things related to crimes a person may have committed, or perhaps something having to do with terrorism. These bars are actually rarely encountered in practice. That's because very few migrants have this kind of history. But here's the thing, deciding whether an asylum bar applies can be tricky. It involves a complex analysis. The laws concerning this topic are complex, and the facts that asylum officers are dealing with are kind of murky. It can be hard to pin them down, especially in the context of a credible fear interview, which is usually done by telephone and usually without the aid of supporting documents. So there's concern that asylum officers, in their zeal to find pretty much any excuse they can to deny someone, will misapply these rules and determine that people are barred from asylum even when they really shouldn't be. At present, these bar determinations are not made at the credible fear stage, but only later in immigration court by an immigration judge. And immigration judges tend to be more sophisticated than asylum officers, and they've got more time in the court setting to really explore and analyze a case, compared to the rushed credible fear context. But under the new rule, asylum officers are going to be able to make these bar determinations at the credible fear stage. And I gotta say, I share the concern of other immigration lawyers that this new policy will lead to asylum officers misapplying the bars to asylum and keeping out deserving applicants. Okay, so that's one of the two issues. Now, the other announcement concerns something called internal relocation. This is a concept that says that you can't get asylum in the United States if you could just avoid future persecution by just moving somewhere else in your home country. Like if you're in danger in a certain place and you could be safe by just moving to a different region or city, well, you're expected to do that. We're not going to give you protection here in the United States if you could be safe somewhere in your own country. And this concept has been around for a long time, but the Biden administration recently said that USCIS has issued new guidance to asylum officers about being especially diligent in exploring this concept at the credible fear stage. Now, in the past, this wasn't given much weight or probed too deeply during a credible fear interview. I say that with experience as a former asylum officer. It sounds like the Biden administration, though, is now saying, hey, asylum officers, we do want you to really explore this closely in the credible fear interview. Look, this is clearly another attempt to screen people out, to find a way to deny people earlier in the process so that they can be deported more quickly. Now, taken together, these two announcements can only be viewed as a renewed effort by Biden to look tough on immigration, an issue that is favorable to his opponent, Donald Trump. I expect to see increasingly harsh rhetoric around immigration generally and asylum specifically from both presidential candidates, and the implementation in the coming months by the Biden administration of additional measures gauged to make it harder to get asylum in America. If you're ready to take the next step and get help with your asylum case, then call my office today. That number is 713-909-0401. And remember, we help people all over the country, so it doesn't matter where you live. Call us now to schedule an asylum strategy session so that we can help you secure your future in America through asylum. Again, I'm Brian Manning, and it's truly an honor to serve you in your asylum journey.